This week in our Eye on Money series, we're looking into some of the costly mistakes people make with their finances. Many families do not plan ahead for the care of aging parents, and the financial burden often falls on adult children. Nearly 3 in 10 Americans with a parent 65 or older say they have helped their parents financially in the past year, according to a 2014 survey. We spoke to Jessica Boudet, who has provided financial support to her 64-year-old father living in another state.
I'm always saving. I know that it's a bit important to save for retirement as soon as you start working, but
33-year-old Jessica Boudet spends a lot of time planning for retirement, but not just her own.
sometimes it's a bit awkward because you feel like you're the child that's now becoming more like a parent figure.
After filing for bankruptcy several years ago, her father Mike is rebuilding his finances.
These days, we're talking a lot about what his retirement might look like. There isn't going to be a substantial amount of retirement savings to live off of, so it will be kind of a fixed income situation.
Jessica, an only child of divorced parents, now acts as a safety net for her father.
If there were to be a major medical expense, that could be something where he would require some support. In the last year, he has purchased a condo, so I did provide some support to ensure that transaction could happen. It was the same, if not a bit cheaper than renting.
Jessica dipped into her own savings to help purchase the home. She and boyfriend Sean factor in support like this when planning their own future.
We don't know where we may have to make a big investment. It could be because of supporting a parent. It could be that we want to buy a home. And maybe even because of past experience with my family, we are more on the conservative side of our budget.
CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger writes about caring for your aging parents in her new book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do with Their Money, 13 Ways to Right Your Financial Wrongs. She's also a certified financial planner. Jill, good morning. Jessica's worried about her father. You say you're worried about Jessica. Why?
Well, I mean, I think she did an amazing job. She actually had a tough conversation with her dad to kind of figure out what's going on. She created a plan. She talked about renting versus buying. But I'm worried because now I'm thinking, well, wait a second. She used this money for her dad's condo. What about her own place of residence? What if she wants to buy? Now she may be prevented from doing some things that she wanted to do because her dad needed help. So,
but it's her dad.
It is her dad, and I want her to take care of him. But I think if I could wind the clock back, I would have said, look, I know renting might be a little bit more expensive, but I would have rather her kept that liquidity, that extra money floating around, because, as she said, she might need it for him. She also might need it for herself.
And she points out, too, having gone through this with myself, the medical expenses, if you have one of these, they are extraordinary, and they put you in a tough place where you have to make choices about someone you love dearly and your pocketbook.
Yes, and I think that the reason why we want to raise this as an issue is that we want to foster conversations, because what you're trying to figure out is, hey, mom, dad, tell me how you're doing. Are you living paycheck to paycheck? I'd rather know that. You know, Gayle and I were talking in the green room. We were saying it's really hard for parents to share that kind of information. They may not come to you. You want to figure out what's going on. Do they have an emergency reserve fund? What are they thinking about for their own housing? Do they want to stay where they are? Are they going to move in with you? Are they going to maybe try to rent for a while? Let's get this information out so we can all be prepared, both generations.
But why is it such an awkward conversation? Because I don't think parents want to ask their kids for help. And I think I was raised in a house that you don't discuss money with your parents.
Yeah, I think that this is a real issue because I think that there is a bit of shame around it, because if I'm the parent, I don't want to put that burden on my kid. On the other hand, as a child, you don't want to be seen as kind of nudging your parents. So what I say is you've got to have these conversations no matter what. We want to reveal the information. We want you to be transparent. We want you to get the bottom line. What can we do to actually prepare for this? If you don't know how to start this conversation, the best thing
Give me a script.
Yeah, exactly. So here's what you do. You say, I was watching CBS This Morning, and they did an interesting segment about this, and you use that as a trigger. Or you say something about someone you know. Hey, my friend's mom just moved in. Or you might say, it's tax season. How did you do in the tax season? How are you doing?
And Jill, how stark should one be in these conversations? Because I mean, you don't want to go all the way to, when you're in a nursing home, are you going to be okay sharing a room? Because that's,
I know.
And are we? Because those, I mean, it can get pretty brutal pretty fast.
Yes, and I think that the first way to have the conversation is to know you're having a conversation, but you can't be judgmental. You don't want your parents to be judgmental about you. You open the door, you have a conversation, you nudge it open. Then once it's open, you don't push too far. Again, what are you trying to figure out? How are you doing day to day? What do you have in that emergency reserve? And by the way, what are your plans going forward? Now, if they push back, guess what? Don't go there. The door is now open a tiny bit. You can walk through when necessary. Be kind to one another. This is really tough stuff.
Kindness always works. You say retirees make common financial mistakes that impact their kids. What are you talking about?
One thing I think is incredibly important, that there are a lot of people who are just putting their homes in their kids' names. This can be very dangerous. There are tax consequences to doing this. A lot of people are doing it without their kids knowing. So before you make a big financial decision, like I'm just going to put the house in my kid's name, make sure you talk to somebody, get some third party to help you out.
Well, I will say Jessica's lucky to have a boyfriend like Sean who's willing to help her father out. He's a keeper.
Oh, yeah. Go for it, Jessica.
All right, Jill, thank you. And if you have questions about making a plan to care for your aging parents, head over to CBS This Morning Facebook page, and Jill will answer some of those questions. And if you have been misled by past financial advice or bought a home when you should have rented, consider sharing your story to help other viewers. You can find a submission form at cbsnews.com/costly mistakes.